While every genius was awakening powerful classes, Daniel awakened nothing. No talent, no class, not even the weakest ability. Everyone treated him like a failure, until the day he died protecting his sister. Because death didn't end Daniel's story, it awakened something that should never have existed. A Transcendent SSS Class. Beyond even the legendary rank humanity believed was the absolute limit. And with it came abilities powerful enough to make monsters obey, and erase corrupted beasts like they were nothing. The boy everyone called talentless had gone from the bottom to possessing power even the greatest awakened couldn't understand. And once Daniel entered the tower, even the strongest beings standing above humanity would learn why some powers were never meant to awaken. Daniel looked around the school gates. Reincarnating into a world of magic and hunters felt unreal compared to his boring past life on Earth. Here, teenagers awakened powers to fight dungeon monsters. He hoped to become a legendary warrior, but his awakening result was cold. No talent found. Talentless. His life became a cycle of constant mockery. Only his mother and his genius sister, Alice, cared about him. While top guilds fought to recruit Alice, everyone treated Daniel like garbage. He heard students whispering insults nearby, but he just smiled coldly and stayed silent. The doors opened, and Alice ran out with white hair fluttering. She hugged him tightly. "What happened? Why'd you come pick me up today?" "Mom was busy. Don't you like it?" "Of course I do." They got into the car and drove off. Alice excitedly shared her big news. Fallen Sun, a top 5 guild led by a legendary 8th floor tower conqueror, offered her a spot. "So you're becoming a top-tier awakened, huh?" Alice chuckled, but the air suddenly shifted. Everything went dead silent. The sky turned blood red. Dimensional rifts tore open across the sky, raining terrifying monsters down on the street. Screams filled the air as giant lava-covered beasts smashed into the pavement. Blightbearers, D-rank monsters that normal humans couldn't survive. Alice summoned her silver sword. Fear shook her voice. "We have to help people." She jumped out of the car. "Alice, wait! Get back here!" Daniel chased after her into complete chaos. Monsters ripped civilians apart right before his eyes. He froze, completely powerless without an awakening class. Up ahead, Alice swung her blade with precision, but she was just a beginner. Suddenly, a massive 3-meter beast locked eyes on her and lunged. "No!" Daniel threw himself into the path of the claw. The blade-like talons tore through his chest. Blood sprayed into the air. "Brother, no!" Alice screamed, collapsing beside him in tears. Daniel crashed to the pavement. The world faded into cold darkness as his life slipped away. But then, his blood stopped falling. Red droplets floated in midair, glowing bright red. A cold system voice resonated inside his head. "Mother System has accepted your will. Conditions for reawakening met. Beginning reawakening process." Everything went black. System confirmed death. But an exceptional condition triggered his class activation. Daniel received the class. Fallen Priest, a servant walking between mercy and madness, carrying the blood of an apocalypse god. His talent, Blood of Gesabit, allowed him to force any living being into obedience. He also gained the skill Fallen Will. For 2 minutes, the skill handed control of his body over to his class essence. His personality turned cold, while granting him holy abilities. Along with it came Crimson Judgment, a divine skill capable of completely erasing every corrupt beast in sight. Daniel lay on the ground, feeling no pain. It was as if his body no longer belonged to him. Then his eyes opened. Golden flames burned inside his sockets, Tobias replacing his light brown eyes. Blood vapor rose from his skin. Broken bones snapped back into place with soft cracks. Ossi. While his skin repaired itself. All humanity disappeared from his gaze. Daniel took a deep breath, then stood up with smooth, steady steps. "The clothes are bloody," Daniel whispered. "But this time, I'm not the victim." His voice sounded rough and broken. Nearby, Alice dropped to her knees. Her sword was bloody, and her eyes filled with tears. "Daniel?" Alice trembled. "Are you okay, big brother?" Daniel didn't look at her. He watched his own healing wounds with strange curiosity. Then, he started laughing, a low, demon-like laugh. Daniel turned toward the remaining beasts of corruption. Everyone else had already fled. Centuries after dungeons appeared, humanity had grown used to scenes like this. The military and national federation tracked dimensional breaks instantly, then sent guilds to clean them up. Awakened hunters usually rushed in afterward, hoping to claim valuable monster corpses. Daniel wondered how they would react. when they arrived and found nothing left. Daniel opened his arms. "My children, why did you stray from the right path? Did I not place you in the womb of corruption?" He paused. "Just kidding. I didn't create you at all." His smile disappeared. "But now, it's my job to judge you." Daniel activated Crimson Judgment. The ground beneath him cracked open, revealing a dark red magic circle covered in ancient symbols. The sky split apart. Blood-red drops began falling like rain. Then, fine, red light slammed into the earth like a divine whip. Every beast of corruption silently crumbled into nothing. No screams, no blood. The D-rank monsters were erased. Like ants. Alice crawled backward in fear. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her brother had been powerless only moments ago. But now he was slaughtering monsters effortlessly, even as a top talent. Alice didn't possess this kind of power. Daniel turned back toward her, staring with emotionless golden eyes. Silence filled the air. Suddenly, the golden light vanished from his eyes. His body went limp. Daniel collapsed to the ground. The duration of fallen will had ended. Dropping his stats back to normal, he was left half dead. And the ability was locked for 3 months. Daniel woke up in a quiet hospital room, smelling alcohol and disinfectant. His head pounded like someone smashed his brain with a hammer. Sitting up heavily, he remembered everything. The blood, the golden light, and the monsters crumbling into dust. Daniel asked himself, was that real? Did I really awaken? He called up his system screen. Floating before him was his status panel. His rank was F, but his class was Fallen Priest, listed as Transcendent SSS rank. His skills, Fallen Will and Crimson Judgment, were both SSS rank, powered by the innate talent God's Blood. Daniel gasped. Transcendent? Is that above Legendary? Legendary was the highest rank known to humanity, held only by top leaders. Yet his class went beyond that, a fallen priest serving the god of apocalypse. He chuckled nervously and whispered, God's blood? What does that even mean? Suddenly the door burst open. His sister Alice ran in with puffy eyes, followed by their mother, Leanna. Leanna cried out, Daniel, you're alive! Daniel smiled weakly. If a splitting headache means alive, then I'm great. Alice threw herself into his arms, crying that she thought he wouldn't wake up. Daniel gently stroked her hair, glad to be back. Before they could speak further, 2 official figures entered in black uniforms with golden insignias. Joel introduced himself. I am Joel Arkin from the Department of Awakened Incidents, and this is Lieutenant Lyra Khan. Joel opened his notebook and stated, Yesterday, a dimensional rift appeared near your academy. We found 3 Blightbearers completely erased. Local witnesses reported strange light and energy. Can you tell us what happened? Daniel paused and acted innocent. Daniel replied, I awakened for the first time to protect my sister. But after that, I don't remember much. Lyra stepped forward, staring cold-eyed at him. Lyra said, The energy levels didn't match a new awakened. Daniel shrugged with a calm smile. Daniel lied, I got a healer class. I'm just a priest, not a fighter. Maybe it was an energy burst. Joel closed his notebook and instructed Daniel to report to the central base for official registration once recovered. Before leaving, Lyra leaned in and warned, Remember, Mr. Noir, the truth never stays hidden for long. The warm sunlight shone through the window, dancing across the white sheets and Daniel's pale face. Liana pulled her chair closer and held her son's hands with tired, worried eyes. Liana gasped, Daniel, you nearly killed us, kid. I thought I'd have to reserve a grave. Daniel gave a half smile, frowning at the throbbing pain in his side. Daniel replied, Mom, I just came back from the dead. Could you please start a little softer? From the couch, Alice sat up with an annoyed look. Alice teased, If Mom doesn't kill you, the awakened organization will. You were talking like a zombie priest. Where did you even learn to talk like that? Liana's eyes widened with fear. Liana panicked. Zombie priest? Why couldn't you just get a normal class like a mage or a swordsman? Daniel cleared his throat, trying to sound steady. Daniel said, I am a priest, the type that heals and brings people back to life. There's nothing to worry about. Alice raised an eyebrow and laughed. Alice joked, You're more like a priest who does his own funerals. Daniel gave her a cold look. Daniel said, That wasn't even funny. Alice puffed her cheeks, then suddenly jumped up. Alice said, Wait, the Fallen Sun Guild messaged me about my test. They said to bring you along if you've awakened too. Liana sighed loudly, her voice filled with panic. Liana argued, No, it's too soon. He needs to recover first. She couldn't help but remember her husband's tragic past. Daniel spoke calmly. Mom, I'm 18. Liana dramatically placed a hand on her heart. Liana exclaimed, You're still my little crybaby who used to be scared of the dark? Daniel smirked, but Alice's smile faded into a serious expression. Alice lowered her head and whispered, Daniel, when you looked at those monsters, your eyes, it didn't feel like you. It was scary. Are you really a priest? Daniel held his breath, understanding her fear. At that moment, he had no control over his body. Daniel reassured her, Trust me, Alice, I am a priest. It was just adrenaline. I got a little carried away. Silence settled over the room. Realizing she couldn't change their reality, Liana stayed quiet. Soon after, both left the room, leaving Daniel alone as sunset shadows filled the space. Yesterday he was talentless, but now he held a Transcendent Class. Daniel whispered, Open my panel. At the hospital exit, Liana stared at Daniel with a worried, quiet look. She knew she couldn't stop him, so supporting her children was all she could do. Liana asked gently, Are you sure you should be discharged today? We could stay another day. Daniel shrugged with a faint smile, trying to hide his exhaustion. Daniel replied, I'm a priest, Mom. I can heal myself, remember? In reality, he had no healing skills, only 2 deadly abilities. He still couldn't understand what kind of priest he was supposed to be. Liana ran her fingers through his hair and smoothed his messy collar. Liana said softly, Priest or not, you're still a kid. Her words left him speechless. From the curb, Alice called out while holding a taxi door open. Alice urged, Mom, if you don't let him go now, he'll fly away on his own. Come on, let's go. Daniel winked at his sister, grateful for the save, and Alice flashed a mischievous smile. After a brief goodbye, Liana and Alice drove away. Once their taxi vanished, Daniel hailed his own ride and got in. Daniel instructed, Awakened Association Center, District 3, St. Elias Boulevard. He wanted to register as soon as possible. At 18, his awakening was considered very late, since most occurred at 16. The driver glanced at him through the mirror and asked, The Awakened Association? So you're one of them? Daniel answered calmly, Just awakened. Going to register? The driver smirked and said, Lucky you. Awakening these days is like winning the golden ticket. Daniel raised an eyebrow and replied, Golden ticket? More like a landmine in a war zone. You just don't know when it'll blow up. Still, Daniel understood the driver's envy. Even F-Rank Awakened received a monthly salary from the association, enough to live comfortably. The driver laughed and said, Hope you reach the higher ranks soon. Heard some can clear a dungeon with just a gesture. Daniel joked, Right now, I'm practicing how to climb stairs without falling. Both laughed as the taxi drove on. Daniel pondered the association's structure. It was a semi-governmental body controlled by the Guardian Council. Without an official badge, he couldn't enter dungeons, use skills, or receive system support. Furthermore, equipment and training were expensive, so securing the monthly salary was essential to relieve his family's financial burden. The driver announced, We're there, sir. Daniel stepped out in front of the Sanctus Awakened Association building, a massive glass and stone tower with golden energy lines running through its facade. Black stairs led up to automatic doors, guarded by officers in black and gold uniforms. Staring at the towering structure, Daniel thought to himself, how much money was spent to build this place? The semi-transparent glass doors slid open, and Daniel stepped inside. Streams of blue and violet energy flowed beneath the glass floor, rippling under his feet. Holographic screens lined the walls, displaying rules and guides. Following the signs, Daniel took the moving stairs up to the West Hall, where hundreds waited in long lines to register as awakened. While waiting, Daniel considered whether to reveal his SSS rank. He decided to keep the rank hidden to protect his family, while showing off his power enough to claim better opportunities. Suddenly, a loud argument broke out ahead. A flashy woman and a burly man were harassing a 16-year-old girl, shoving her out of line. Reminded of his sister, Daniel stepped forward. Daniel called out, "This isn't a place for bullies. Learn to wait in line or get thrown out." The man turned around aggressively and barked, "Who the hell are you?" Daniel stared him down and replied, "I'm your father. Didn't your mom teach you respect?" Before a fight could start, association guards arrived, scanned the couple's IDs, and ejected them for power misuse. The young girl turned to Daniel and whispered her thanks. Daniel replied coldly, "Just mind your place." Soon after, Daniel's number was called for booth 4. The registrar asked for his details. Daniel stated, "Daniel Noir, awakened yesterday at Educational Zone 39. Class, Fallen Priest." "I prefer to keep my rank private." The registrar paused briefly, then processed his file without argument. She handed him a metallic pin with a glowing circular emblem. She explained, "This is your awakening badge. It grants dungeon access and system connection. You will receive a base salary of 25,000 Zen monthly, access to the online community, and medical insurance for your family." Daniel accepted the badge with a nod. The registrar smiled and said, "Welcome to the association, Mr. Noir." The smell of fresh bread and fried herbs filled the house, mixing with the moonlight shining through the windows. Discharged around noon, Daniel had walked to the association and then home. Arriving near nightfall, Liana called from the kitchen, "You're home, sweetie? Go wash your hands. Dinner will be ready in a few minutes." Alice came out of her room with a slight smile. Alice teased, "You're finally back. Good job out there, hero." Daniel smiled back. Daniel said, "Hero? It's still too early for that title." Alice muttered, "Humph, sooner or later you will become one. Though I really don't like their fake attitudes." She remembered how her childhood admiration for awakened heroes faded, after learning how corrupt many of them were. Liana set the plates down with a smile, bringing up an old memory of the kids burning the kitchen while making breakfast. Alice laughed and pointed at Daniel, but he flicked her forehead. Daniel said, "If I remember right, the main culprit in that disaster was you, Alice." Liana brought out a plate of fruit and insisted Daniel eat more to stay healthy. Daniel said, "Mom, I'm an awakened priest." "I'm immune to diseases, remember?" Liana countered. "Don't you see how many priests die in dungeons every day? If they ate more fruit, their bodies would be stronger, and they could escape from the monsters." Alice pretended to think deeply, and joked that their mother's logic made sense. Daniel accepted defeat with a sigh. Once Liana stepped away, Alice's tone turned serious. Alice said, "By the way, Daniel, you still haven't asked anything about the tower." Daniel shrugged, explaining that non-awakened only knew basic facts online, while detailed information was classified for academies. Alice explained, "The tower has 10 floors, and each floor is its own world with unique rules and tests. Right now, the strongest awakened are stuck on the 10th floor. The mother system said if all 10 floors are conquered, dimensional breaks will stop and the world will be saved." She added that clearing floors grants treasures, skill upgrades, and class rank increases. Daniel asked, "And what about the celestial domain?" Alice's eyes lit up. Alice answered, "It opens after clearing the first floor. It's a giant lobby where all races gather, humans, elves, beast races, even demons. The big guilds have bases there for trading and training. But power is everything. And humans have made plenty of enemies." Daniel laughed quietly, noting it was typical for power-hungry humans. Liana returned with the fruit, restoring the warm atmosphere. Liana asked, "So, what were you all talking about while I was gone?" After dinner, Daniel walked up to his room. Alice was cleaning the kitchen, and his mom was watching TV. The house felt strangely quiet. He fell onto his bed and stared at the ceiling. Images of the tower filled his mind. Media and the internet called it the only path to true power. His mind was a mess, but he felt excited. Ever since he came to this world, he wanted to become an awakened. Daniel took a deep breath and opened his old laptop. He logged into ArcaneNet, the official website for awakened users. The site was huge, full of guides and news. Non-awakened were never allowed here. He created an account in seconds. A tag appeared next to his name. Daniel Noir, Level 0 Newbie. Daniel clicked the icon to check the rules. The site had 10 levels, matching the tower floors cleared. Higher levels gave access to auctions and secret guides. At level 0, Daniel could barely do anything. Curious, he searched for his own class. Fallen Priest. The search returned 0 results. Daniel laughed. I guess that makes sense. Then, he opened the tower guide. The first sentence shocked him. Entry into the tower required a valid key. There were only 3 ways to get a key. Join a guild, buy one for a huge price, or pass the Awakened assessment test. Daniel frowned. He had no guild and no money. Only one option remained, the test. He searched for the test schedule. The site stated schedules were only available in person at local associations. Passing this test also allowed entry into the elite National Federation. Daniel found a forum post about the test. He tried to leave a comment to ask for details. A warning popped up. Access level too low. You cannot comment. Daniel closed his laptop. Fuck. Guess I'm visiting the association tomorrow. Daniel woke up to the sound of rain tapping on his window. He sighed and got dressed. In the kitchen, the smell of coffee filled the air. Alice sat at the table, half asleep, stirring her cereal. Liana stood by the window in a warm jacket. Wear something warm, Liana said. It's raining again. I'm heading to the association today, Daniel replied. I need to check something. Daniel waved goodbye and stepped out. He took a taxi through the wet streets. The driver, an old man, started grumbling about modern awakened ones. Back in my day, we fought monsters with sticks, the old man said. Daniel just smiled and ignored him. Minutes later, the taxi stopped at the association building. Daniel went inside and approached the front desk. I'm here to register for the assessment test, Daniel said. The receptionist checked her screen without looking up. The next test is in 6 months. Daniel froze. 6 months? He couldn't wait that long. Is there no other way? No, she replied coldly. Have a good day. Daniel walked outside into the heavy rain. He had no key, no money, and no taxi in sight. Suddenly, someone grabbed his sleeve. Hey, I didn't get to thank you yesterday. Daniel turned around and saw the same girl from before. I'm Naya Everlight, she smiled, holding out her hand. I'm Daniel Noir. Naya tilted her head. What were you doing inside? I was looking for a tower entry key, but the test is 6 months away. Naya grinned. You came all this way for a key? One call is enough? She pulled out her phone and called her grandfather. Hi, Grandpa. Can you get me a key? It's for a friend. The voice on the phone laughed. All right, I'll send it over. Naya hung up and looked at Daniel. Your key is ready. Daniel stood shocked. Getting a key was that easy? Need a ride? Naya asked. It's raining. Daniel decided not to refuse. Naya called her driver, and a sleek black luxury car pulled up. Daniel got inside, staring at the high-tech interior. So, where to? Naya asked cheerfully. The rain tapped softly against the luxury car's windows. Daniel sat in the back, staring at the road. Beside him, Naya rested her chin on her hand, looking out the window. Did you just awaken? Naya asked suddenly. Daniel paused. 2 days ago. Why? You don't look 16, Naya said, her eyes full of curiosity. It's rare to awaken at 17 or 18. It surprised me too, Daniel chuckled. Then you probably don't know much about the tower, right? I know some things, Daniel replied. 10 floors? Appeared 3 centuries ago. People clear them to get stronger. Naya smiled slightly. That's just the surface. If that's all you know, your sister hasn't entered the tower yet. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Is there more? Have you heard of the celestial domain? Naya asked softly. The world starting from the 2nd floor? Yes, Naya said, her tone turning serious. Earth's rules don't apply there. No governments, no armies. Only raw power matters. Other races like elves and dragons live there. Guilds rule entire continents. Daniel listened quietly. Being alone in the celestial domain is dangerous, Naya continued, turning to him with a smile. Isn't it better to join a guild? I want to clear the first floor on my own first, Daniel replied. He wanted freedom, and with his Transcendent Class, he wasn't worried. I get it, Naya laughed softly. But if you ever join a guild, consider Everlight Moon first, okay? Daniel froze. Everlight Moon was one of the top 3 guilds in the country, founded by an S-rank awakened centuries ago. Was this girl related to the guild founders? Why was she in this city instead of the capital? Before he could ask, Naya pointed out the window. Well, we're here. Is this your house? Golden sunlight hit Daniel's face as he opened his eyes. He checked the calendar on his wall. A black line marked today's date. Enter the tower. Today. His heart beat faster. It's time. He went downstairs to the kitchen. His mother, Liana, was making breakfast. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at him. Are you sure you don't want to wait a bit longer? Liana asked softly. The sooner I enter, the better, Daniel replied, taking a sip of milk. Alice grumbled beside him. Promise to take a picture from the second floor. You can't take pictures in the tower, Daniel laughed. Awakened under 18 weren't allowed inside the tower. So Alice still had to wait 2 years. Furious, she slammed the table, knocking her cereal bowl over. Daniel and his mom burst out laughing. Later, Daniel took a taxi to the central square. Looking out the window, the giant tower was visible from everywhere in the city. He called Naya on the phone. Someone is delivering your key, Naya said playfully. Don't argue with him. He's a bit weird. The taxi stopped in front of the massive tower entrance. As Daniel stepped out, a silver-haired man in a black coat approached him silently. Daniel Noir, I was ordered to bring this to you. The man handed him a small black box and walked away. Daniel opened it and pulled out a glowing, semi-transparent golden key. A system message popped up. Key obtained. Access granted to the Origin Tower. Quantity 110. Daniel looked at the sky-piercing gate. Other Awakens stood around, chatting loudly. But Daniel focused on the entrance. Fortunately, the first floor wasn't fatal. Dying only meant getting kicked out for a year. He gripped the key tightly and stepped forward. The massive gate opened silently. A blinding white light engulfed him, and Daniel entered the tower. A blinding light swallowed Daniel, rebuilding him in a place beyond imagination. He was standing in empty space, surrounded by pulsing stars and massive silent planets. There was no ground, but he wasn't falling. It was terrifying and beautiful. The forum posts were right. Entering the tower was a complete shock. A cold digital voice echoed in his mind. The system said, Congratulations, you have entered the tower. Identity confirmed, Daniel Noir. Class, Fallen Priest. Rank, Transcendent. Starting personality scan. His head grew heavy as hidden memories surfaced. Alice's scream. The smell of blood. Every choice and fear he ever had. The system read him like an open book. The system said, Scan complete, loading basic tower rules. Golden text floated before him. The tower had 10 floors, and he had to clear them one by one. Failing meant a 1-year ban, and he could only leave when the exit gate activated. Will I be alone in the trial? Daniel asked. The system said, You will find out upon entering the floor. Makes sense, Daniel muttered. He knew floor conditions were random, and only the top 3 floors were shared. The system explained the EXP system. Killing monsters and completing missions raised power levels and unlocked skills. Hidden rewards doubled the final value, and all items went into his system inventory. Then, a sudden warning appeared. The system said, Would you like to enter the first floor now? Warning, if you fail, all your stats will be halved, and you will be banned for 1 year. Daniel froze. My stats get halved? Are you kidding me? Nobody on the forums had ever mentioned this punishment. Losing half his power was devastating. He looked at the merciless stars around him and took a deep breath. There was no turning back now. Let's see what the first floor has in store, he said. The system said, request confirmed. Transfer begins in 3, 2, 1. Space and light collapsed around him. The system said, welcome Daniel Noir to the first floor, the last winter. Difficulty, hell. Mission, survive for 24 hours. Good luck. Daniel woke up chained to 2 wooden pillars on a cold mountain, facing a cave massive enough for 4 elephants. Behind him was a sheer cliff, and the icy wind was biting. He couldn't move. He checked his skills, but none could help him break free. He looked around and saw 3 other prisoners tied up nearby. 2 men on his right were completely hopeless, but on his left was a female elf with golden hair covering her face and torn clothes. She must be a climber like me, Daniel thought. He recalled what he learned on the forum. Difficulty was based on stats, and hell difficulty meant extreme danger. There was no record of a snowy mountain trial like this. A heavy executioner blade hung directly above him between the pillars, designed to drop and cut him in half if he tried to break the chains. He couldn't overpower it, but he could use it. Daniel took a breath and shifted his weight to the right pillar, intentionally triggering the trap. The blade dropped instantly. Pain exploded through his body. The blade severed his entire right arm from the shoulder. Blood sprayed everywhere, exposing bone and muscle. Ah! Damn, that hurts, Daniel screamed. The other prisoners looked at him in total shock. You crazy bastard, one of them yelled. He wasn't supposed to come back until night. Your dumbass move is gonna get us all killed. Daniel ignored their panic. Gritting his teeth through the agonizing pain, he used his free left side to cut his remaining bindings on the blade. He tore a piece of his shirt and wrapped it tightly around his shoulder to stop the bleeding. He stood up, pale and trembling. Before he could make a move, a heavy, freezing breath hit the back of his neck. Soft white fur brushed against his skin, and the creature sniffed his ear. Daniel froze, completely paralyzed with fear. I'm cooked. The massive white beast sniffed Daniel's ear, brushing its fur against his face. The other captives froze in absolute horror. Daniel didn't dare move an inch. Knowing a single twitch meant instant death. The creature stepped forward, revealing its terrifying form. It looked like a giant tiger, 3 times the size of an elephant, with snowy white fur. Instead of a normal face, it had a single giant blue eye and a wide twisted grin. Daniel instantly recognized it. The one-eyed winter, a C-rank monster capable of using the law of destruction. It was impossible to fight something like this on the first floor. The beast sniffed Daniel's head, dropping saliva onto his hair, but then turned its attention to the severed arm on the ground. It grabbed the bloody arm and retreated back into its cave. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Daniel stood up and checked his bleeding shoulder, then walked to the edge of the cliff. It was a 1,000-meter drop. Jumping was suicide, but staying meant the beast would hunt him down at night using his scent. Please untie us, the 2 surviving women begged. Daniel ignored their whining and made a quick plan. He needed a distraction, and he needed to get down the mountain fast. I'll save you, Daniel said, putting on a heroic act. He untied the 2 girls and the corpse of the 3rd prisoner. He pointed to a long wooden pole stuck in the snow and told them to pull it out. We're going to use this like a sled to slide down the cliff slope, Daniel explained. Though terrified, the girls sat on the pole, and Daniel joined them. They pushed off, sliding rapidly down the snowy mountain wall. As they slid, Daniel suddenly turned toward the corpse they had dragged along. Nothing personal, just making sure the beast doesn't follow us, he said calmly. Without hesitation, Daniel cut off the corpse's head and threw the body parts in opposite directions, splashing blood all over the snowy slope. The scent of blood on the cliff would throw the one-eyed winter off their trail tonight. The girls screamed in total horror. You're a monster! How could you do that to a dead body? Daniel glared at them coldly. Are you idiots? I did this so the beast follows her blood instead of ours tonight. Want to take her place? 2 bodies are better than 1. The girls instantly shut their mouths, terrified that this ruthless human might kill them next. Meanwhile, Daniel smirked to himself in silence. The wooden pole slammed into the snow at the foot of the mountain. Daniel grabbed a sturdy stick, ready for anything. The 2 girls stepped off, terrified, but they had no choice except to follow him. They walked in silence as the sun began to set. Katri frowned. What are we even doing? They were starving, but Daniel ignored the question and kept moving. Finally, he stopped at a massive frozen lake. This will be the monster's grave, Daniel said. Both girls stared at him in total shock. They had barely survived, and now this lunatic wanted to hunt the beast? Daniel replaced his bloody bandage, stuffing the old cloth into his pocket. Night is coming, and this entire mountain will become its hunting ground, Daniel explained. If we want to survive, we have to kill it. They knew he was right. Daniel turned to the female elf. You are an elf. Are there any plants here that can weaken it? Lunaral thought for a second. There are a few, but I do not know if they grow nearby. Better than nothing, Daniel replied. After searching the area, they gathered the plants and spent an hour setting up a trap on the frozen lake. Soon after, Daniel lit a fire to roast some mushrooms. The elf smiled softly. I am Lunaral. The demon girl turned the food over the fire. I am Katri. Nice to meet you. They both looked at him. Daniel, he replied simply. Why were you tied up outside that cave? Daniel asked. Katri took a bite of a mushroom. The tower places participants randomly. It was just bad luck. Daniel looked up at the darkening sky. Humans have a bad reputation, but I promise you, we are actually very kind. Lunaral and Katri stared at him in disbelief, remembering how he had decapitated a corpse earlier. Katri glanced at Lunaral, wondering why the poison she put in the food had not worked on Daniel yet. Daniel smirked and poured his water over the fire, putting it out. You can call me cruel, Lunaral, Daniel said coldly. But Katri, a poisoner like you has no right to talk. Before Katri could react, her head spun, and she collapsed to the ground. Lunaral grabbed her stick in pure terror. What did you do to her? Calm down. I will not hurt you, Daniel said, raising his hands. Lunaral glared at him in utter disgust. Calm down? You crazy human? Are you going to kill me too? Look at the water bowl next to you, Daniel urged calmly. You are an elf. Sniff it. Lunaral hesitated, but used her skill, Eyes of the World. Her eyes widened. The water was laced with paralyzing poison. Did you poison this? She demanded. No, Katri did, Daniel explained. I saw her dripping something into our water earlier. So I poured my water onto her food and refilled the bowl with fresh water. Lunaral looked down at Katri and activated her vision skill again. A spark flickered in her eyes. I see. Lunaral sighed, guilt washing over her. I am sorry for shouting at you. She looked at him with soft puppy eyes, making Daniel's heart skip a beat. To keep his focus, he pinched his finger to snap out of it. What did you see? Daniel asked, staying cautious. Katri is a poisonous demon, Lunaral explained. Her blood acts as a paralyzing agent. It cannot kill us, but it knocks us out for hours. Daniel nodded, secretly wondering if he should kill Lunaral to hide his own secrets. He pushed the thought aside for now. They still needed each other. So what do we do next? Lunaral asked. Daniel asked if she knew anything about the one-eyed winter. Lunaral thought for a moment. It is actually an outcast among monsters because it hunts and eats its own kind. Roar! A massive roar echoed down the mountain. The sky was completely dark now. It is here, Daniel said. He picked up Katri's unconscious body and laid her in the middle of the frozen lake as bait. Then, he poured a foul-smelling liquid called black gold over the ice. This stuff stinks, Lunaral complained, placing mistleaf plants around the corners to mask the smell. Everything is set. I really am a genius, Daniel smirked. Lunaro puffed her cheeks. Excuse me? I gave you the entire plan. Before Daniel could tease her more, violent crashes echoed through the forest. Trees snapped like toothpicks. It is here, Lunaro whispered, her ears twitching in fear. A giant white beast moves through the forest. Trees shatter with every single step. Its glowing golden eyes scan the area, tracking the scent of its escaping prey. This entire mountain belongs to this monster, and there is nowhere left to run. Following the strong smell of fear, it reaches a frozen river under the pale moonlight. Lying directly on the ice are two unconscious demons. The monster steps forward. The frozen surface instantly cracks under its weight. Without hesitation, it bites straight into Katri's leg, ripping it completely apart, devouring the body pieces one after another. While licking the fresh blood from its jaws, the monster turns toward the bushes, demanding the hidden human to show himself, realizing that hiding is completely useless. Daniel calmly steps out into the open. He looks at the beast and asks a question. Why does it prefer eating creatures that look human? The monster explains the brutal truth. Human-like organs taste far better, even though humans themselves smell completely disgusting. The beast, known as One-Eyed Winter, instantly recognizes Daniel. He is the one who previously escaped by cutting off his own arm. As a reward for such bravery, the beast promises him a quick and painless death. But Daniel looks right back at the monster and states that he is not the one dying today. The beast demands to know where the missing elf is. Daniel stays completely silent. Before the monster can strike, Daniel pulls out a small piece of wood, a shard of pyro ash, a material that instantly explodes upon touching black gold. One-Eyed Winter recognizes the lethal material immediately, but it is already too late. Daniel throws the shard directly onto the frozen river. The entire area erupts in a massive explosion. Black smoke and deadly debris fill the air. Daniel dives behind a nearby tree for cover. The intense blast burns his hand and face, completely melting the thick river ice in seconds. As the heavy smoke slowly begins to fade, Daniel looks back toward the river. Emerging through the mist, One-Eyed Winter steps forward, heavily injured, yet still alive. Half of its massive body is burned down to the bone, exposing its glowing white heart, the only core that can truly kill this monster. Enraged by the pain, the beast attacks instantly. Daniel tries to dodge out of the way, but the strike tears straight into his injured shoulder. One-Eyed Winter's eye shifts into a deep, terrifying red tear, activating its eyes of annihilation. A massive beam of pure destructive energy fires directly at Daniel. The beam pierces straight through his stomach, obliterating the icy mountain behind him. Daniel flies backward through the air, slamming violently against a massive block of ice. As his vision fades, and he completely loses consciousness, One-Eyed Winter looks down at the dying human with pure arrogance. Escaping a monster this fast was impossible from the very start. Daniel never even planned to run. His only goal was to kill it. Suddenly, Lunaro rushes out from the bushes. She desperately tries to heal Daniel's pierced stomach. Her magic glows for a single second, only for the fatal wound to tear straight open again. One-Eyed Winter steps forward, mocking her foolish attempt to counter its absolute law of annihilation. With a single swipe of its massive arm, the monster sends Lunaro flying into the distance. The beast turns back to Daniel, leaning directly into his bloody face. It licks him, eager to savor his final dying words. Barely able to move, Daniel whispers that he never loses in this life. Suddenly, the monster's instincts scream pure danger. Before it can pull back, Daniel uses every last drop of his strength, shoving a black gold ball straight into its open mouth. The ball violently detonates, blowing the beast's massive head completely to pieces. Dense smoke fills the freezing air, yet Daniel does not stop. He reaches his hand straight into the exposed chest, grabbing hold of its glowing white heart. Daniel crushes the core instantly. The giant beast collapses heavily to the ground, dead. Daniel falls backward into the snow, his body completely destroyed and soaked in blood. His arm gone, his stomach pierced clean through, and his vision rapidly fading away. At that critical edge of death, a loud system notification echoes inside his head. He has successfully killed the rank D monster. The kill grants him massive experience, triggering a breakthrough straight to rank E. His stats explode across the board, awakening his SSS rank Transcendent Class, the Fallen Priest. Daniel's body begins to heal at a terrifying speed, closing the massive wound in his stomach and completely restoring his missing severed arm. Suddenly, an unbearable wave of agony strikes his mind. The barrier between his soul and physical body shatters completely, opening a massive spiritual sea inside his consciousness, a vibrant expanse stretching across 10,000 miles, centered around an ancient, rotating cycle of life and death. To his sheer surprise, the endless waters filling this spiritual sea are pitch black. The system confirms the breakthrough, restoring Daniel back to his absolute peak condition. He stands up and rushes to check on Lunaral, finding her completely unconscious, yet still breathing. With his newly awakened rank E power, his spiritual sea now generates and purifies mana entirely on its own. Daniel turns his gaze toward the massive dead beast. Deciding to test his innate talent right now, he slices open his finger, letting a single drop of blood fall directly onto the corpse. Rise! A beam of mysterious purple light crashes down from the heavens, engulfing the monster's shattered body. The system triggers 2 consecutive failures due to Daniel's low rank, until the final attempt breaks through. The blinding light fades away, revealing a completely transformed beast. Its pure white fur has turned as dark as the night sky. Its muscles surge with terrifying mass, and an electric purple mane crackles around its head. Daniel gives this terrifying creature a new name, Vorak. Vorak steps forward through the cold air and drops directly to its knees before him. "I have seen the Lord." Daniel gently pats the beast's massive head, instantly pulling up its status window. Vorak is now classified as a minor fallen, possessing raw combat stats comparable to a rank D awakened, coupled with absolute, unbreakable loyalty. A rapid series of system notifications flash across Daniel's vision. He permanently receives 10% of Vorak's total stats, gains an entire extra life, and unlocks the power to copy 1 skill from his newly bound follower. Daniel checks the floating notification screen with pure excitement. Creating a fallen grants him 10% of its total stats, a completely free copied skill, and a guaranteed extra life. If he ever suffers a fatal blow in combat, his fallen will die in his place instead. Realizing this gives him pseudo-immortality. He instantly selects Vorak's strongest ability, the S rank skill, Light of Destruction. Meanwhile, Lunaril slowly wakes up on the freezing ground. Directly above her stands a massive, terrifying, dark silhouette. Panicking in sheer terror, she screams, believing the dead monster is back for her life. Daniel walks over with a calm, relaxed smile, telling her to take a breath and calm down. He explains that the beast is dead and has essentially become his personal pet dog. To prove his words, Daniel commands Vorak to sit. The giant apex predator immediately drops to the ground, eagerly wagging its tail like an obedient puppy. Lunaril stares in absolute disbelief. Never in her life has she seen a tamer subdue a beast of corruption so easily. Daniel jokes about catching a dragon next. Yet beneath his casual humor, his mind remains razor sharp. The trial has not ended, meaning an even greater threat is still lurking in these frozen lands. Suddenly, a deafening roar shakes the entire mountain. A violent howling blizzard erupts out of nowhere, ripping massive trees straight out of the frozen earth. Beneath him, Daniel feels Vorak trembling in absolute terror. Sensing the overwhelming danger, Daniel quickly pulls Lunaril onto the beast's massive back, ordering Vorak to sprint away at maximum speed. The dark beast tears through the forest like a black bullet, barely escaping the edge of the raging cataclysm. After putting several kilometers of distance behind them, Daniel finally slows Vorak down. Suddenly, violent sounds of metal and screaming echo nearby. Peering through the thick, freezing fog, they spot 4 awakened humans desperately fighting for their lives. Surrounded by a vicious pack of horned white wolves, The moment the wolves catch Vorak's suffocating aura, they freeze in place, abandoning the fight and scattering in pure terror. The surviving humans stand completely frozen in shock, staring at the mysterious young man riding atop a terrifying behemoth with sheer, utter disbelief. The leader of the 4 awakened humans steps forward across the snow, introducing himself as Aaron Regari, the second son of the Grandmaster of the legendary Siren Blade Guild. Daniel recognizes the prestigious name immediately. Siren Blade is one of the nation's most powerful guilds, world-renowned for producing ruthless, lethal swordsmen. Daniel keeps his composure, introducing himself as an ordinary awakened with no special backing. Suddenly, Lunaril steps forward into view. Aaron's gaze locks straight onto her striking, crystal blue eyes. In an instant, he realizes the truth. She is an exceptionally rare royal elf. His eyes gleam as if looking at a priceless treasure, masking his dark greed behind a warm expression. Aaron introduces the rest of his elite party, Karni, Neve, and Lana. He thanks Daniel for driving the vicious monsters away, offering an invitation to travel together for mutual protection. Daniel calmly accepts the alliance, though his instincts stay sharp, deeply suspicious of Aaron's overly friendly smile. The group sets up a temporary camp to recover, allowing Karni time to heal their injured fighters. Daniel rests against a cold boulder, keeping his watchful eyes locked directly on Aaron. Aaron approaches, pressing for answers, asking how a mere E-rank awakened could ever defeat and tame a lethal D-rank beast. Daniel gives a dry, casual response, saying he simply tamed it. Shifting the focus, Daniel questions how 4 awakened entered the same trial floor together. Aaron reveals the secret, a rare, high-tier artifact bracelet from the celestial domain that binds a party before entry. Aaron stands up with an excuse, claiming he needs to check on the condition of his wounded teammates. Instead, he walks straight toward Neve in the shadows, lowering his voice to a dangerous whisper. Aaron warns that while Daniel is clearly dangerous, capturing a live royal elf is far too valuable to ignore. Neve urges caution, warning him of the lethal risks involved. Yet Aaron dismisses the danger entirely, revealing that his own father has hunted relentlessly for a royal elf for years. A cold, sinister smirk spreads across Aaron's face. Fully determined to seize Lunaril by any means necessary, Karni approaches Lunaril, asking for help finding medicinal herbs in the freezing forest. Unaware of the trap, Lunaril agrees and leaves the camp, while Lana silently stalks behind them in the dark shadows. Back at the campfire, Neve offers Daniel a steaming cup of spiced tea. Daniel takes a single sip. Aaron and Neve exchange sly smirks, carefully dragging out the conversation to buy time. Aaron offers Daniel a prestigious spot inside the Siren Blade Guild. Daniel mocks the offer outright, claiming the far superior Everlight Moon Guild has already scouted him. Aaron freezes in absolute shock, well aware that his guild cannot stand against such an overwhelming powerhouse. Suddenly, the lethal poison in the tea violently takes effect. Daniel's chest locks up. Paralysis sweeps through his veins as he collapses hard onto the snow. Aaron draws his cold steel blade, admitting that things have gone too far to turn back now. Right at that moment, Lunaril's desperate scream tears through the distant trees. Lana and Karni have captured her. Before Aaron can drive his blade down, the tallest mountain in the region begins to violently shake and melt. Glowing veins of burning magma rip across the ancient rock face. 2 colossal fiery eyes tear open inside the stone. A terrifying system announcement echoes in all of their heads. Survive against Ragzar, the living blood mountain, for 4 agonizing hours. Overcome by the paralyzing poison, Daniel's vision fades completely into black. Vorak lunges out from the tree line, roaring in pure, unbridled fury to protect his fallen master. Aaron instantly presses the sharp edge of his sword against Daniel's paralyzed throat, forcing the giant beast to halt dead in its tracks. Karni and Lana drag the bound and battered Lunaril into the clearing. Aaron sneers down at her, boasting that consuming her pure royal blood will upgrade his class rank to perfection. Lunaril glares with burning hatred, cursing him as nothing more than a pathetic, cowardly dog. Suddenly, Ragzar fully emerges from the earth, crushing entire forests beneath colossal feet of molten stone. A catastrophic rain of molten hellfire pours down from the sky. Panicking, Eren crushes a rare protective crystal, summoning an amber barrier that grants them a mere 10 minutes of absolute defense. Across the entire blazing mountain, countless awakened climbers are incinerated alive in seconds. The 10-minute barrier shatters just as the fiery rainstorm subsides. A chilling system notification flashes before their eyes. Only 7 climbers remain alive. Eren breathes a heavy sigh of relief, only to freeze in sheer, paralyzing horror, as a suffocating, murderous gaze locks directly onto the back of his neck. The system announces the complete elimination of all other climbers, initiating the brutal final phase. From kilometers away, Ragzar's burning magma eyes lock directly onto Eren's group. Panicking in sheer desperation, Eren grabs the limp, unconscious body of Daniel, threatening his life to force Vorak into submission, demanding the beast carry all of them to safety. With cold, murderous eyes, Vorak slowly kneels down into the snow, allowing the terrified party to climb onto his back. Behind them, the colossal lava giant charges forward, ripping massive burning boulders from the earth and hurling them through the sky. Explosions of molten rock detonate across the dying forest. Vorak sprints at full speed, weaving and dodging through the falling meteors, while Eren watches the chaos, coldly calculating whether he should throw his own teammates off to lighten the load. Suddenly, Vorak breaks through the burning tree line, skidding violently to a dead halt. Directly ahead lies a massive, endless cliff dropping into the abyss. Lana completely loses her mind, screaming at Eren in pure panic, reminding him that dying here means a brutal 1-year ban from entering the tower. Before Eren can scream back, burning drops of scalding magma splash directly across his face. Ragzar leaps straight through the smoke-filled sky, crashing down heavily on the edge of the cliff right above them. The suffocating wall of heat and overwhelming aura paralyze the entire party in terror. Eren frantically checks the mission countdown. Less than 2 hours remaining. Facing a monstrous rank B calamity with a battered team is absolute suicide. Yet surviving those final 2 hours is their only path to clearing the floor alive. Eren draws his gleaming steel blade, roaring at his frozen teammates to take their battle positions immediately, with their backs against the endless void and nowhere left to run. The awakened draw their weapons, preparing to make their desperate final stand. Eren collapses heavily to his knees, his hands trembling uncontrollably as blood drips from his mouth. Lana and Neve are completely drained and exhausted, and Ragzar is officially done playing around. Desperate to avoid the devastating 1-year ban from the tower, Eren reaches into his inventory, pulling out a rare A-rank consumable item, Golden Heart of the Wild. He roars at Lana and Neve to pour every drop of their remaining mana into the glowing relic. A blinding flash erupts across the cliff. Ancient forest spirits unleash a compressed field of absolute destruction. Massive golden roots burst straight through the earth, tearing violently into Ragzar's molten stone body. For the first time, the colossal giant roars in genuine agony. Its vitality plummets at a terrifying rate, as half of its fiery flesh crumbles into burning ash. Yet the cost is absolute. All 3 climbers have completely drained their energy, leaving them paralyzed by pure exhaustion and unable to move a single muscle. The thick, suffocating steam slowly clears away, revealing Ragzar still standing tall, its molten eyes blazing with pure, unbridled fury. With all their mana wiped out and their final hope shattered, Eren, Lana, and Neve collapse into the snow, silently waiting for their impending death. Suddenly, a calm, casual whistle echoes across the battlefield. Standing tall above them is Daniel, completely awake, wearing a confident smile. Eren stares up at him in sheer, disbelief-filled shock, unable to fathom how anyone could overcome that lethal, paralyzing poison without an antidote. Daniel calmly walks past the frozen climbers, gently patting their trembling shoulders. "You did good, guys. You held out really well until now. From here on, I'll take care of it." Daniel calmly reaches down, picking up Eren's fallen steel sword from the cold snow. turning his cold gaze toward the furious lava titan. Daniel commands Vorak to guard the three climbers closely, declaring that nobody is allowed to kill them except him. Daniel grips the sword tightly, feeling the cracked metal hum with raw, surging power in his hands. He walks calmly toward Ragzar, locking his cold gaze directly with the colossal titan. Normally, taking down a monstrous B-rank calamity requires a full squad of elite fighters. However, thanks to the A-rank relic Eren sacrificed, Ragzar's combat strength has plummeted all the way down to rank. Daniel mocks the weakened giant, asking if it feels ashamed of being this pathetic despite its massive size. Ragzar roars in deafening fury, yet Daniel charges straight into the danger zone. Infusing pure mana through the steel, he drives the blade deep into the monster's leg. Before the titan can retaliate, Daniel strikes its massive knee with devastating precision, spraying burning molten blood into the freezing air. Dodging a lethal, earth-shattering swipe, he sprints up Ragzar's colossal arm like a shadow, landing firmly on its massive shoulder. Daniel's eyes flash a terrifying blood-red crimson, activating the S-rank skill, Light of Destruction. Blinding beams of pure destructive energy erupt straight into Ragzar's face, completely incinerating its vision in seconds. The blinded giant thrashes wildly in unbearable agony before collapsing heavily onto the shattered earth, crushing entire lines of trees beneath a massive wall of dust. Daniel hops down lightly onto the snow, looking down at the groaning monster with pure, cold contempt. Taking a step back, he activates his skill, Judgment Crimson. A glowing red magic circle instantly ignites beneath his feet. I pass judgment, and you're guilty. Massive golden blades materialize in thin air, plunging straight down into Ragzar's exposed heart. The colossal giant detonates in a violent explosion of crimson energy, blowing its molten body completely to pieces. A flood of system alerts flashes rapidly before Daniel's eyes. Hidden quest completed, double rewards unlocked, and an official breakthrough straight into rank. A global announcement echoes throughout the entire realm, declaring the first floor successfully cleared, with a mere 10-minute countdown remaining before the final transfer. Daniel attempts to use his blood to resurrect Ragzar as a fallen, yet the system rejects the attempt due to the overwhelming rank difference. Eren, Lana, and Neve stare at Daniel in pure, paralyzing horror, unable to fathom how a single human just slaughtered a terrifying B-rank boss. Eren's mind races in sheer panic, wondering if this monster before him is secretly an ancient, overpowered returnee. Daniel casually walks over to the trembling group, a playful, chilling smirk spreading across his face. He generously offers to explain how he survived the lethal poison, while making it very clear that he has a few bloody questions of his own.